What does it mean to get in the water? Otters normally get in the water whenever there's danger on land. To otters, the water is an escape from whatever threatens them on land. That's because the water is a different realm where the rules and circumstances of the land do not apply. There's a hard divide between the land and the water, and getting in the water entails taking a big leap. You make a splash, you get wet, and it may be uncomfortable at first, but soon you get used to it and begin to enjoy it. Otter's distinguishing feature is the ability to make that leap. Whatever is pursuing it on land can't follow it into the water, and thus the otter is safe. But otters aren't born with the ability. In fact, otter pups hate the water and must first be taught to get in it. There is an instinctive aversion that must be overcome through practice. Similarly, we also have to acquire that ability. Getting in the water can be seen as a rebellious act. It's certainly an act of bravery, an act that cries freedom. No, land. I will not follow your rules. I am independent, I have a choice to leave your realm for another one where I can swim freely. Certainly getting in the water is an ability to be admired.
Life on land can be hectic and stressful, and to those that dwell on it, there doesn't appear to be an alternative to it. But the otter swimming in calm water can view it from a distant perspective, and thus gain a certain inner contentment with it when he returns to it.
In fact, otter pups hate the water and must first be taught to get in it. This to me seems like a really important lesson that can be learned from otters about getting in the water. Restrictive things can, and often are, comfortable, much more so than the alternative. If an otter lived his entire life on land, he wouldn't have to deal with the fear and the discomfort that comes from trying something new, from getting into the water, but he'd also never experience the joy and the freedom of having an entire existence in the water. So while something that confines us might be comfortable and simple, like land to a baby otter, breaking free of this comfort to experience new things is oftentimes the best thing that we can do.
These are powerful lessons indeed. But the question remains, what is the water? And how do I find it?
I'm thinking, the water can be literally just the water. Swimming is fun. And definitely makes you more ottery. And also something unique to each person. Note how when you get in the water, you go through your own reflection. So what the water is depends on you. I'm not sure about examples, and I can't even think of what my own personal water would be. So I'm sorry if this is vague, but this is the best I can explain it.
I think the water is our second nature. It isn't our home. Otter holts are on land after all, so it isn't what comes most naturally to us. But being in the water is also something otters are very good at. Their fur is magic at keeping them dry and they're great swimmers, but they still need to breathe air. Otters also seem to play the most when they are in the water, so getting in the water should either be a precursor to something enjoyable or be enjoyable itself. All this is to say that I think getting in the water is something you enjoy doing, that you are good at doing, but is also something you weren't very good at when you started. You had to learn it. It could be a game, or a sport, or swimming, or art, or debate. If you haven't found such a thing yet, then you gotta go on some adventures to find your water. Try lots of things, see what sparks joy for you. I would also say that otters are almost uniquely playful. So in addition to getting into the water, I think that finding the fun is an important otter trait to emulate. Otters hunt in the water, they work there, but that certainly doesn't stop them from playing around. I need to work on this myself. I have to channel my inner otter and find ways to play around and find some fun even when it doesn't seem like there's any to be had.
Agree with everything you said. I think you got the whole point of get in the water really well. And the fun is important too. Where we may see a muddy riverbank, the otter sees a fun sliding opportunity. Otters are super curious animals. Whenever the otter sees something new, he's sure to try and play with it. So being present in the moment, enjoying the little things are what matter.
Always being curious is a big part of what makes an otter an otter. Even if something seems boring and mundane at first glance, just take a moment to take it in and appreciate it. And maybe it'll turn out to be something fascinating.
It reminds me of the prophet's saying, "The paradise is surrounded by hardships." The principle of getting in the water also points toward the merits of self-discipline and commitment. The water may not be enjoyable or pleasant. It may be cold and uncomfortable. But the water is rewarding all the same. There is something to be gained from getting in the water. Something that is greater than the unpleasant feeling that comes from getting in it. You may make that leap into the water, and you may catch a fish or a crab, and then eat and be satisfied for the rest of the day. Those few minutes in the water getting over your own aversion to the discomfort of being in the aquatic environment brought you something much better than just avoiding having to endure the water for a short while. This is a lesson for us, too. When the prophet said that paradise is surrounded by hardships, he was referring to the trials and hardships a believer endures in this life to gain the ultimate reward in the next. There are unpleasant and uncomfortable things in our lives which we endure because we know that they will bring us to a better outcome. Why do otters get in the water? To catch the fish. You don't just have to ask yourself what the water is, but what the fish is, as well. Not only what it is you may have to endure, but what you hope to gain from it.